Today I stand here as a farmer to tell you that I bought a cage for 60,000 naira per unit 6 to 7 years ago, and these cages are still serving. They are still good because of maintenance culture. So this vlog, you're going to see how I maintain my cages and what I do before I receive new birds, why my cages lasted me this long, reasons why you must not use expensive cages to start your farm. It is more on maintenance. So this vlog is going to be a very interesting one. I'm going to break everything down. You do not need millions to build a farm. You need sense. 7 years ago, I bought these cages for 60,000 naira according to how much I had at that time. Now, these cages are not galvanized cages, which means they are prone to rust. But I started with what I had at that time. I started farming very early as a young girl, and I had to make do with what I had on the resources I had at that time. And so I got these cages for 60,000 per unit. They are non-galvanized cages, which means they are prone to rust. I'm going to tell you that 7 years down the line, these cages are still standing. Watch this video. Let me tell you how I maintain these cages and how they will stand for at least 20 years. When it comes to farming, you do not need so much money. I didn't start farming with big investors, shiny galvanized cages, shiny farms, solar systems. Nope. I started farming with the little resources that I had. I was just trying to survive, so I needed a place to keep my bird. I remember going to a farmer that was already big that time and had that, oh, these are the cages I got. And she told me that these cages will not last up to a year. Why didn't I get the galvanized iron ones? But I knew that I could not afford that at that particular time. What did I do? For today's topic, we are going to talk about how I maintained my rusty cages, non-galvanized cages for 7 years, and they are still in tip-top shape. Grab your popcorn, grab your malt, grab your Coke. Let's get down to this video. My name is The Fitness Farmer, and welcome to this page if you're just joining in. Here we share lifestyle, farming, health, and anything worth shareable. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my video to who needs this. Let's go down to business. Now, every time I sell off my birds, that is when the real work begins for me. I have to maintain the farm whenever they leave. If you're using non-galvanized cages, which is cages that are prone to rust, you know that anytime you sell off your birds, you would have to clean the cages properly and paint your cages. So I sold off some of my birds in the top part of my farm 2 months ago, and I am preparing to receive new birds I took to cleaning of the farm. Let me share my top 3-stage maintenance routine, which is deep cleaning. This is where I disinfect the farm, I wash the cages, and I dry off after every sale. After every cycle ends, which is anytime I sell off the birds and I'm bringing in new ones, this is what I do. So in deep cleaning, we remove every single feeder along the cages. You can see we have nets. I got nets to replace any torn nets in the farm. We wash the feeders. The feeders you see on the ground, we wash it thoroughly. And we lay it out to dry. We disinfect them and we wash all the cages thoroughly. Washing these cages one by one, making sure that we replace every broken nipple or every broken cup. Reinforcements. This is where I tighten the bolts. If the cages are, let me say, breaking or are bending, I make sure that the cages, I would replace those parts that are bending. We would go through the feeders and see if there are any broken pipes. This is what I call the reinforcement stage. And lastly, protection, which is the main part. Anti-rust. For those of us that use the cages that are prone to rust, this is what you should do to maintain your cage. When using non-galvanized cages, these are the kind of things that would happen to your cage. They would rust. So every year I get painters to paint the cages, especially after all my birds have gone. In that way, it would maintain your cage. You can see the difference between the painted one and the unpainted one. You can see how these cages are. You do not let them get to the point of breakage after rusting. So after each cycle, I always repaint the cages. Every single year, I make sure that I repaint my cages. In that way, your cages will not rust, your cages will not break, because that is how your cages will rust and they start breaking. The mistake most people make is when people sell off and they are restocking, they rush to fill up their cages without doing these 3 things that I talked about. They don't deep clean thoroughly. They don't disinfect thoroughly. And the most important part is they do not use anti-rust paint to repaint and coat your cages again before you receive your new birds. Not everybody can afford galvanized cages. Galvanized cages go, second-hand galvanized cages now go for as high as 280,000 per unit. That is per 90 beds. The cheapest you can see out there is about 280,000 naira per unit. So for those of you or those of us that are not using galvanized cages, these are the kind of practices you have to put in place to make sure that your farm can stand, cages can stand the test of time. The success of your farm does not depend on your setup. Maintenance culture, my people. I got to the farm today. I advise you to use the anti-rust paint. It's sold in the market. Any brand is good. This is what I use for mine. So each time I sell off my birds, I make sure I do that. I change the tanks, I repair things here and there so that your farm will last longer. Now, there are things to do when you sell off your birds. For me, I have birds still in the farm. I have birds still laying and at the lower part of my farm. And because of that, I have to be careful when it comes to maintenance. And because of that, while maintaining the other parts of my farm, I have to be careful. Now, let us go to the next stage. What do you do before you receive your birds? For people like me that buy point of lay birds, this is what I do to prevent possible disease outbreak. Remember that I have about 3 cycles in my farm, which means I sell only a part, which means I sell off the birds at only a section of the farm. I still have birds laying for me at another section. And because I am going to be receiving new birds, I would not want them to get in contact with the old birds. I do not know the farms they are coming from. So in order for me to employ the basic and correct biosecurity, this is what I do. The first thing I do is, before they come, I disinfect the farm thoroughly. I like to use hypo to disinfect the farm. I clean their cages, like I said, clean it thoroughly. I replace nipples or cups, any cup or nipples that might be in the cage. I replace any broken cups or nipples. I remove the feeders. When I'm talking about deep, thorough cleaning, I'm talking about removing the feeders off on the tray. Remove them completely, scrub them, clean them thoroughly, replace any broken plastic, any broken hooks. Look at your cage thoroughly. Any broken door or any door out of place, replace them. Any broken, drinker or nipple in your cages, replace them. This is what I do. And then I go to flush the pipes. Now, the reason I flush the pipes, normally I flush my pipes every 2 weeks because of the drugs that you give to your birds. And so you need to flush your pipes regularly. But this time around, I do what they call a deep cleansing of my pipes. Why am I doing this deep cleansing of my pipes? Most times when you give your birds drugs, you know that any drug or vaccine that you're giving your birds normally pass through the water tank, which means they pass through the pipes down to where your birds drink from. And sometimes residues or things can be inside those pipes. And so after I have sold off, I do a different kind of deep cleansing off those inner pipes. I keep on flushing them and cleaning them until they are sparkling clean. After using hypo and disinfectant, I know most farmers, they don't do this, but if you have gone through a lice problem before, you would know why I am being extra. I now de-lice the farm. Yes, I de-lice the old birds and I spray anti-lice on all the cages, on every single cage. I make sure everywhere is neat. Then I go to the nets in your poultry farm. I dust them off. Then I go to the roof. Most times in poultry farms, birds normally find their way through the roof or through the nets. They try to enter in, so because of that, some of the nets, or will I call them wire gauze, would have been weakened over the years. Even if a wire gauze is weakened, I would get a new one and I will put it up there because I know the importance of blocking your farms against birds, because birds come to birds fly into your farm. They not only eat the feed, most of them, they leave residues of droppings along the troughs, and this can infect your birds. Another thing I do that I do not take chances with is before the birds come, I do not trust any farm my birds are coming from. If you like, let the farm I am buying those birds be the best farm in Nigeria. I try to do my own biosecurity because it is my own that I am sure of. I am not sure of yours. And so what do? I assign every worker to different section of the farm and give them their own individual gears, which means the overalls and boots or or buckets that you use to pour your birds feed for section A, you would not use it for the new birds coming in section B. Do you know why? Because the birds coming in, you do not know what they are coming in with. And sometimes they are fragile. You also, your birds that are more mature in other sections, you do not know if they have eyes or they are going through any form of disease. It is better to, I call it the quarantine method. It is better to quarantine each section until those birds are stronger and you're sure they have stayed for about 3 weeks. You have given them all the vitamins that they need, and some antibiotics if necessary, distress, and then you can use the same utensils for all of them. But for me, the minute I am about to receive new birds, I start to quarantine each group because I have seen a lot. There was a period in my life where I got some birds from another farm and I did not do this quarantine to this level, and I know what it cost me. What happened is my birds got infected, the whole farm. Please, if you're getting a new bird, if you're getting new birds into your farm and you have older birds on that farm, apply what they call the quarantine method. Second thing I do is, because I buy point of lay birds, people who are just joining or those people who might not know what point of lay birds is, point of lay birds are birds that are gotten at 12 weeks or 14 weeks. Get them. Most times they are too small for the cages, either because they have not gotten to their goal weight and they can't hit the nipple to access water. Now, birds need water more than feed. So this is what I do. I look for the smallest of the runs, which means I go through the cages, look at the birds that are small and are finding it difficult to take water, and I bring them out and put them in another place where it is easy to get water. I have those kind of places in the farm for those kind of birds because they are too small to hit the nipple. Or I tie extra wires around my cages so that they don't slip from the cracks outside. Number 2, make sure that your birds are up to their vaccination date from any farm you are buying from. Biko, please, I beg, though, make sure that these birds that are coming to you, they have gotten all the necessary vaccinations. You can send your worker ahead of them if possible to make sure, ask the farm for the charts of your bird so you would know where to start. Another thing, make sure that they are debeaked, because by 16 weeks, they are supposed to be debeaked properly. So make sure that they have been debeaked properly. And if you see anyone pecking due to the change of environment, isolate that bird immediately. Today, I stand here as a farmer to tell you that I bought a cage for 60,000 naira per unit 6 to 7 years ago, and these cages are still serving. They are still good because of maintenance culture. So I hope you learned 1 or 2 things from this video. You can start small. It is not about the amount of money that you have to start or what you do not have. You can buy non-galvanized cages and it will work for you. Because take it from somebody, look at my feeders. My feeders are practically the plastic type. They are not the recent galvanized feeders, and my birds are not dying. My birds are producing. They are not saying because they are not in galvanized cages, because they don't have galvanized feeders, that's why they're not producing. Nope. My birds are producing with or without the standard, with or without the supposed standard. The point of this video is to encourage new farmers getting into the poultry business. It is not by how much you have. Use the one you have to start and make it work by employing the right practice, the right maintenance culture. do the right thing, the right maintenance culture, and it's going to save you cost, it's going to save you money, and it's going to save you lots of stress if you do the right thing at the right time. Maintenance is key in farming. Maintaining of your poultry equipment. I even changed the boot, I changed the bulbs, so I changed the nets, some of the nets that are torn, I changed some of the coveralls, I changed the nipples. I make sure that the farm is in tip-top shape before I bring in new beds. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this video and you picked 1 or 2 tips. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Most importantly, subscribe. Let's grow together. I'm here to share and I'm here to make you a better farmer. Thank you so much for listening to my TED Talk and see you guys next time. Bye.